Welcome to Chats Rehash, where we go back over our episodes to talk about what we covered, what we liked about it, what we said absolutely wrong, according to Chappie, along with the conversational threads that we left open. Maybe we want to revisit them. Maybe we want to close them up. Maybe we want to encourage you to explore them yourselves. I'm Stuart, your host, Bitcoin Maxi, who wears prescription sunglasses to protect you and your loved ones from my Bitcoin laser eyes.
And I am Chris, co-host, founder of Ithaca Hummus, Bitcoin smash buyer, and proud multi-coiner.
Bing, bing, bing. So hit that like and subscribe the same way Chris hits that smash buy button in Bitcoin. Well, when he's ready to get his Bitcoin, help us get to 999 plus one subscribers. So here we go. Episode number 4 was number 4 Ari, Chris's friend. This episode's theme focused on Bitcoin mining, decentralization, and the broader implications of a digital sovereign future. I really liked how we treated on some futuristic concepts. My favorite part of that episode was when Ari asked us what would happen if a rogue AI witch got into Bitcoin.
My head was spinning at that point.
That was amazing. First of all, I would love to meet an AI witch, right? An AI that has decided it is both sentient and ready to be a witch. And then I want to see what happens when it goes rogue and decides it wants to do it. Like, I'm all about it. Rogue AI Witch is going to be the title of my next science fantasy novel, okay?
So count me out. Count me out for that one.
So check it out. Go watch number 4 Ari. Let me know in the comments if you're pro Rogue AI Witch like moi, or if you're trying to, smash or pass. I'm a smash on Rogue AI Witch. Chris is a pass.
I'm chilling in reality over here.
So things that Chappie feels we got wrong. We talked about a possible conspiracy in which the CIA created Bitcoin because some of the IP addresses from which Satoshi posted on those message boards were allegedly CIA IP addresses. Now, in the episode itself, when you listen to it, you'll see that I don't lend any credence to this conspiracy, but Chappie wants to make sure that we say for a fact that, quote, while fun to speculate, there is no concrete evidence that the CIA created Bitcoin. So you heard it from me in the episode. You heard it from Chappie right here. Satoshi made Bitcoin, and all you need to know is that Bitcoin is the greatest. So let's look here at this misinterpretation of Bitcoin mining susceptibility to hacking. Okay. So So Ari was like, hey, he was asking about my BitAxe. Well, hey, is your BitAxe secure? Is your little hobby miner secure? And I was like, well, I'm sure it is, because you'd have to find it first. You'd have to get into it. You have to do something with it. It's got to be pretty secure, but I didn't really know the full cybersecurity element of my hobby miner. Here's what Chappie says. They suggest someone could easily reroute mined Bitcoin by hacking a miner. While possible, it's not as simple as just redirecting funds, as the entire blockchain security model is built to prevent this. So
that's the whole point.
Just Chappie going to bat for us and reminding you that Bitcoin is one of the world's most secure things, thanks to all the computational power that is put toward it. And then Ari also asked about the Illuminati, and we'll just put that in the CIA bucket as it's, don't worry about that.
I think that actually might have been me.
Yeah. Chris was just like, hey, look, if the Illuminati is someone who's illuminated, then you better believe you're illuminated if you have Bitcoin.
That's right. Lit up.
So open conversational threads for Ari. We actually had Chappie deduplicate all of them. We're going to cover 3 episodes today, so we'll treat them at the end. Let's move on to number 5, Chris, my old buddy, Magic the Gathering playgroup bud, longtime guy. His I don't even need to look at Chappie to know what the key theme of Chris's episode was. It was about being a blue collar worker with kids, working for decades, no financial progress made, and a deep-seated belief that he is going to be working until he's dead. That's it. Never going to get ahead. And it's such a, that story breaks my heart because so many hardworking people out there in the world today are not allowed to get ahead because they're just using the wrong money.
Yeah, I mean, they're caught up in the rat race. They're not thinking about how to store value long term. They don't have, access to information, but even energy to to go after that information. It's really an interesting state of the world these days.
It's fully a tragedy because if everyone out there listening could put $50 into Bitcoin once a month, every month from now until whenever, the results are staggering.
Yeah.
Staggering.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what did we like about the episode with Chris? I think for me, it was fun to have a buddy in the studio, and it was kind of fun for me to draw parallels between the supply and demand of my favorite collectible card game, Magic the Gathering, and the supply and demand of Bitcoin.
I mean, for me, Chris was just so relatable for so many people, and the situation that he is in and the optimism that a technology like Bitcoin presents him with, the opportunity that a technology like Bitcoin presents him with, gives me a lot of optimism. I think about Bitcoin as the ultimate equalizer. We have been redistributing wealth, not just in this nation, but across the globe for decades and decades and decades. And Bitcoin is an opportunity for anyone who has a little bit of cash on the side and the discipline to just put a little bit in on a regular basis and let it sit there to level the playing field for themselves a little bit and get ahead.
Yeah, I like that. So let's talk about what we said that was wrong. Chappie over here, not so sure. Chappie is trying to point out that we said inflation is caused by printing money. And she wants us to let you know that while money supply expansion is a major factor, inflation is multifaceted. It also depends on velocity of money, supply chain disruptions, government policies, and consumer demand. Okay, but you know what? The single biggest thing is printing money.
Yeah.
Changed my mind, Chappie.
Yeah. I mean, Michael Saylor talks about this concept of the velocity of money a lot. And it's one that I have been, made more attempts to grapple with, because by the way, just the way it sounds is velocity of money. You might think the speed at which it moves, right? It's not quite that simple. It might be something worth coming back and doing a short stack on at some point in time. But yeah,
because the velocity of money means that with all the US dollars floating out there right now, one US dollar is typically used once in a year's time to make transactions. Bitcoin, 15. Bitcoin is 15 times faster than the dollar, but we might do a short stack on the velocity of money to help you all out here in the future. Something else that Chappie pointed out, we talk about how the Federal Reserve prints money, right? Printer go burr is the, refrain that you will hear often in the Bitcoin community. And these days, I think it was number 9, Paul, who taught us that printer doesn't even go burr anymore. Button just goes click. It's like boop, boop. This is an interesting little piece that Chappie points here. The Fed doesn't literally print the money, the Treasury does. So the Treasury is printing money and the Federal Reserve creates bank reserves through open market operations and lending programs, which banks then multiply through lending.
That idea of rehypothecation that I think we talked about in one of our early episodes.
And actually, it's the same episode with Chris where we talk about how banks have a fractional reserve system where they can take your deposit and send 97% of it out to the next guy, and they can send 97% of that out to the next guy. Chappie is pointing out that many countries now use, quote, capital adequacy requirements. So they might not be doing 97, 97, 97, but they're definitely taking your deposit and they're loaning it out to the next guy.
Yeah.
It's a fact.
Yep.
Okay, so this one let's focus on here. We talked about Bitcoin not being able to get manipulated. We talked to Chris about how you can manipulate the dollar, but you can't manipulate Bitcoin. Well, Chappie is pointing out that while Bitcoin has a fixed supply, markets can still be manipulated through trading strategies, exchange practices, and institutional adoption. Whoa, that's crazy. I do know that there's a lot of activity that rides on top of Bitcoin because it's kind of turning into a financial product. All I can tell you is that I focus on converting my fiat to Bitcoin and hanging on to it. I think of it as the bedrock underneath Manhattan. You might have a building go on top of it. You might have another building. You might have someone build a park. You might have them tear down a building and put a different building. You might have them put a road. They might do those trading strategies on top. They might do the practices. They might do the institute. All that's above me. I'm not up there. I'm just hanging out here on the base layer called my money is either paper, metal, or Bitcoin, and I'm choosing Bitcoin.
Yeah, I mean, can Bitcoin be manipulated through trading strategies, exchange practices, and institutional adoption? Yeah. I mean, there are big players in the space that can absolutely move the market up and down. And the shorter your time horizon is on your Bitcoin, the more susceptible you are to those risks. But if you use Bitcoin the way I use Bitcoin, it's to store value today. And that means that I'm not thinking about what's the value of my Bitcoin going to be next year or even the year after. I'm thinking about what will the value of my Bitcoin be in 4 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, which really takes you out of the game for some of these short-term market moving forces.
And I'm thinking about what's the value of my Bitcoin going to be in 100 years. That's where I am.
Right.
And I know how much the value of my Bitcoin is going to be in 100 years. It's going to be 1 Bitcoin. Interestingly enough, and we're not going to treat this, Chappie mentions, quote unquote, the shadow banking system. Whoa, chaps. What is the shadow banking system? Oof. If you know what the shadow banking system is, comment down below. Teach Chris what the shadow banking system is because it sounds interesting. Okay. Then let's move on to episode number 6, Michael. Michael is my neighbor. The key theme of our episode with Michael was around financial literacy, inflation, and a generational shift in the culture and economics. He was the one who spent time in the financial world. And he was in the mortgage business. He was the guy who would help determine whether you could get a mortgage. And he saw the interest rates go from like 0 or 1% up to 7%. He got laid off as a result. And now he goes through and he checks the finances of public schools. Y'all remember that? My favorite part of that episode was, of course, talking about his dog Stanley, who I watch most of the time while Michael is off checking on these schools.
Good old Stanley.
Yeah. Chris is racking his mind right now. He's like, what did I like about the episode?
Well, I liked the conversation that we had about Vienna sausages. I thought you did a really nice job of adequately disgusting me, Michael, and the rest of the audiences in your description of, I think, sucking the juice off of your fingers or something like that.
Oh, dude,
it was
Vienna
gross.
sausages down there at the Piggly Wiggly in Little Washington, North Carolina. I believe Jeremy, the producer, and I cut that from the show.
Oh,
and I don't even know if we've released it as a short yet, but if we haven't, we will. Do us a favor, jump into our shorts feed and watch me talk about Vienna sausages. That way we can get you a little bit of extra content boost. So things that we said wrong with number 6, Michael.
Oh God,
we could not figure out where the Mason-Dixon line was.
The first 2 are direct shots at me.
Oof.
So yeah, Mason-Dixon Line. I'm from Maryland, so to all my fellow Marylanders out there, I don't know, shoot me now. I don't know, cancel me, whatever you're going to do, because I did not know whether the Mason-Dixon Line was at the northern or the southern boundary. And I believe I guessed, I did make a guess. It was wrong. I said southern. It's actually the northern boundary of Maryland. So I apologize for that. Second,
now hang on, and y'all just heard him. He just said it again, Mason-Dixon Line, and this is what he said during the episode. My man thinks it's a Winn-Dixie over here or something. It's Mason-Dixon.
It's where they make all the Dixie cups.
And I believe Michael and I had it right as being like Maryland and below was the Mason-Dixon Line, but I think he was trying to put Maryland above the Mason-Dixon Line, and no, it was below. Now, it does say here Maryland was a border state during the Civil War. It was part of the Union, but had Confederate sympathies. So what else did we say wrong?
This was our guest who said that the U.S. dollar was backed by gold mistakenly.
Yeah.
Mistakenly.
Yep.
It is not and has not been since 1971.
Yeah. And that blew his mind during the episode. Yeah. And it's worth revisiting here. The U.S. dollar has not been backed by hard money for over 50 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So corporate greed. Yep. So that was Michael again thought corporate greed was a driver of inflation. And Chappie points out that corporations may rise prices opportunistically, but the primary driver of inflation is the increase in money supply. So we like that. Okay.
Corporations are increasing prices most of the time out of necessity, because they can see that the value of the dollars they hold are continuing to go down, because the government continues to conquest out there on all these insane objectives that they just print more and more money to finance.
So we had Chappie consolidate all the different conversational threads from those 3 episodes that were left open, because when you have a conversation, it kind of goes on a garden path. Some of those conversational threads that were left open, and I'm just going to run down them real quick. We'll figure out which ones we want to touch on here. Bitcoin's role in a multi-planetary economy.
No need.
That's dope. Bitcoin volatility and long-term value. It's only volatile if you are dealing with it in the short term. And quite frankly, the traders, they love that volatility.
Yeah.
But over the past 16 years, the only thing it's done is gone up.
Yep. And
over the next 16 years, it's going to be the same way.
Don't try to day trade Bitcoin.
Dude,
it's not a good idea.
Don't be a trader. Don't be an investor. Just be a Bitcoiner. Yeah. Okay? Don't be up here at this layer with stocks, bonds, and cryptocurrencies and what. Just be down here. Do I want dollar, gold, or Bitcoin? I want Bitcoin.
Buy and hold.
Buy and hold. Okay. The future of fiat versus Bitcoin adoption, touching on things like El Salvador, where you can use it as legal tender. They walked it back a little bit in order to get a big fat loan from the IMF, which they're then Chad Michael Sailoring back into Bitcoin.
Nuh-uh.
Yes, they are.
Oh my God.
Nayib Bukele was like, you know what, Michael Saylor, watch this. I'm going to get money from the International Monetary Fund. I'm going to get a loan from the IMF. I'm going to yeet that into Bitcoin, son.
Wow.
Chad Michael Saylor, the Chad Nayib Bukele.
Has that happened yet?
Fella was the Lisan Al Nayib. It has happened. And he let the whole world know what he was doing, because that day, instead of buying 1 Bitcoin, he bought like 11. And he was like, watch this. See, smash buy.
Wow.
And then he's back to doot, 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 doot. Anyways, what's the future of fiat versus Bitcoin adoption? Bitcoin is going to win. AI and financial systems. This one's interesting. How would AI use Bitcoin as its own money?
It's a thought starter. We don't need to talk about it too much.
Let's see. Economic policies and inflation, Bitcoin mining and energy use. Is Bitcoin mining sustainable long term? The answer is yes, it is.
Yes.
Bitcoin uses stranded energy. Bitcoin uses wasted energy. Bitcoin balances the grid. Bitcoin. That's what my daughter tells me I sound like, by the way. She's like, Dad, I'm going to do you, right? I'm like, okay. She's like, Bitcoin. And she takes, I'm like, does my voice sound like? She's like, Bitcoin. I'm like, all right, babe, come on. You're going to like my Bitcoin when it buys you a big old convertible when you turn 16. Okay, let's talk about this for a second. Government regulation and Bitcoin's future. Open conversational thread here. Could a rogue nation or entity take control of 51% of the Bitcoin network? It's called a 51% attack. Everybody out there should figure out what that looks like so they can determine if they think it's even possible. We should make a short stack on the 51% attack because a lot of people have concerns around the risks. All I'll tell you right now is that when Bitcoin was young, taking over 51% of the network was pretty easy. These days, taking over 51% of the network would be so incredibly difficult and costly that by the time you got there, you would say, you know what, I'm exhausted. I'm just going to put my resources toward supporting the Bitcoin network instead.
Yeah, I mean, what is the market cap of Bitcoin right now?
2 trillion.
2 trillion. So it would take $1 trillion if you wanted to do that.
No, because by taking over 51% of the network, they're talking about putting computers online to start mining Bitcoin.
I understand.
And that's not going to cost you 1 trillion. That's going to cost you more than 1 trillion to get 10 nuclear reactors worth of computers online, because there's 20 nuclear reactors worth now. Can you imagine the cost of standing up 10 nuclear reactors worth of computers?
Yeah.
And you got to race all the new computers that are being put online from 8 billion people around the world. Dude, we'll go into more detail on it in a short stack, but nah. How resilient is Bitcoin to EMP, electromagnetic pulses, or internet shutdowns? We should figure that one out as well. Could Bitcoin be outlawed or excessively taxed by governments? Whew. The answer is yes and yes. But the theory of the sovereign individual states that you will simply pick up stakes and go somewhere else. If you don't like how you're being taxed into infinity, like Italy raising the capital gains tax, well, now you can go to the Czech Republic, where if you hold your Bitcoin for 3 years, they no tax.
Zero.
They no tax.
Zero.
All right. So decentralized social media and internet freedom, next. Financial literacy and personal finance, very important. We're good. Bitcoin versus other cryptos and speculation.
Well, financial literacy and personal finance. Let me just say a quick word about this, actually, because if you want to get ahead financially, it is very important for you to just take a break, stop for a minute in your busy personal life and learn a little something about finance, learn a little something about Bitcoin, pick up a copy of the Bitcoin Standard, listen to podcasts like this one so that you can, if you're not already, so that you can get into the mindset of, okay, let me spend a little bit less and put a little bit over here, so that I can save and start thinking about and planning for the future. I know how hard that can be in this inflationary economy that we live in, but it doesn't have to be a lot, and you just have to get started. So
I just saw number 9 Jack last night. He said, I had a good day pressure washing. CascadeRaleigh.com. Check him out. I bought $25 worth of Bitcoin. That's what he said.
Him, man.
I had a good day pressure washing. I bought $25 worth of Bitcoin. There it is.
That's all it takes.
That's all it takes.
Yes.
Stack your sats.
Wait, number 9?
No. Number 9, Paul. Oh, number 9, Paul.
Sorry about that.
Why
Sorry
do you
about
do
that.
this to me, number 9, Paul? Jack is number 12. Jack is number 12.
Number 12,
Number
Jack.
12, Jack.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Sorry, Jack. Sorry, Paul. Number 9, Paul. Number 12, Jack.
That was a great episode with Jack.
Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah,
It was really good. My mom loved it.
I love that guy.
So 2 more things. Bitcoin versus other cryptos. And by the way, Chappie, come on, Chappie. Bitcoin is not crypto. Don't call it crypto. No, thank you.
There's Bitcoin and then there's everything else. There is no second best.
There is no second best. Only Bitcoin has the properties of Bitcoin. So just to break it down for everyone who's out there in the speculative trading world, they got stocks, they got bonds, they got options, calls and puts, they got meme coins, they've got decentralized applications powered by tokens that call themselves cryptocurrencies. They got full pump and dump rug pulls, okay?
Mm-hmm.
When you're on this second layer, because you're trying to take your money from the first layer, you're trying to place your money somewhere so that it can make more money for you. Don't come talking to me, okay? I don't have any time for it. I don't think that it's a good use of my time, even if I had time for it. I'm down here on the base layer, okay? I'm just trying to say, what money do I want? Do I want a money that is designed to lose value over time, okay? And that's dollars, paper, national currencies, all that stuff. Do I want some metal? I mean, gold is pretty cool. I don't have any problem with gold. And it's kind of like doubled in value over any given period. So that's good. Or do I want Bitcoin, which is the digital gold, the digital cash, the digital unit? It's designed to increase in purchasing power over time. You know what I mean? So I'm just down here saying, yeah, do I want paper, metal, or Bitcoin? I want Bitcoin. Now, last thing we'll talk about here before we jump off. Chappie said that one of our open conversational threads was about hummus. Check this one out. Chappie asks, what are other unexpected food pairings with Ithaca hummus? Whoa, chaps.
Like what else besides woven wheat?
I mean, we jam on woven wheat. I always talk about using it on sandwiches, breakfast sandwiches, lunch sandwiches.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've talked about dipping carrots. You know, number 8 Keen is going to drop it in the middle of a charcuterie board.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? Drop in the comments below what you pair Ithaca hummus with.
That's fair.
We want to know what you eat your Ithaca hummus with. We want to know, and I tell you, we'll share the most unexpected pairing on a future rehash.
Well, I'll tell you one. So we posted this week, a little bit ahead of Valentine's Day, a lemon beet hummus and pita bread cake, layered cake on Ithaca Hummus's Instagram page. So you can imagine what that looks like, right? Just big old round pita bread, and then they spread some lemon beet and then another layer, and they stack this thing up to like 10 layers and then ice the outside of it and cut a little wedge out of it. And there you go. You've got a lemon beet and pita cake.
Wow, lemon beet and pita cake. Take that, Chappie. So if you made it this far, smash the like and subscribe button the same way Chris Smash buys Bitcoin.
Yep.
Spread it to your family, your friends, and if you're like number 19J, your enemies. Help us get up to that 999 plus 1 subscribers so that we can unlock the live Friday morning show for you all. And remember, Chats Rehash is for educational purposes only and should not be construed as financial advice.